All right, Christian and Jessica. I'm so interested to hear all about your art journeys and how you work together and all the things. But let's start with, how did you get into the arts?
Sure. I'll introduce us first. I'm Christian, and this is my wife, Jessica Stanley.
Hello.
We are a muralist team. Together, we're C. Stanley Creative, and we are a husband and wife team from Orlando, Florida, in the Central Florida area. I got my start doing public artwork and murals in 2018. We had just started dating at the time, and I had applied for a small electrical box project in a place called Ivanhoe Village in the Orlando area, and had talked to Jessica about doing it, and she encouraged me to apply. And we actually kind of brainstormed to the initial concept together, and lo and behold, we were accepted, or I was accepted to go out there and paint this small electrical box. And it took me like 3 weeks because I was out there like nights and weekends and
Just sweating it.
yeah, every little detail, totally overdoing the whole thing. And then after I finished that, I was able to apply for a mural festival at an art store in Orlando called Sam Flax, and got selected. Was pretty lucky to get selected because they had like 300 applicants, as is pretty common in a lot of mural festival these days. But I was kind of boohooing myself and saying like, oh, nobody must have submitted. Why did they pick my stuff? But we got picked for that. She helped me with the kind of coming up with some ideas for that too. And then when I was out there painting, somebody had walked by and was talking and chatting up the artists and inviting them to the next town over called Kissimmee to paint for their mural project that they're doing out there. And so for the third wall that I ever painted was about 70 feet long and over 20 feet tall. So that was a bit of an endeavor, and we learned a lot on that one, like how to run a scissor lift. I was painting like dark gray stucco without a sprayer, like painting it with a brush, painting dark gray. I was trying to paint it orange. It was just a big learning experience. It took a long time. It was the middle of June. It rained for like a week straight. But then after that, everything just really kind of took off. It took about 3 years before I was able to leave my job where I was working full time. I was taking all of my nights and weekends and part-time off over like 2 years just to grow the mural business. And I was able to leave my job in 2021. And like a year later, Jessica was able to leave and help me because we realized like I was starting to make more doing murals than I was at my 9-to-5 job doing graphic design, which is kind of my background. I did that for about 9 years at the same company and was just kind of burnt out and ready for a change, as a lot of people were during COVID. So that big shakeup helped me realize that I needed to be doing what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And Jessica really helped me kind of start that new chapter. And it's just been kind of nonstop ever since.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure it's great to have that support system in house. Do you guys ever turn off work talk?
It's hard.
We try.
It can be hard to, because I mean, when you run your own business, it creeps into your life all hours of the day and night. We try to take vacations every now and then and just put on an away message, but even that can be hard to do.
Well, it's hard too because you're running your own small business, but you're also running it with your partner. So if you're not thinking about work, they're probably thinking about work, and they're going to ask you about something when you're trying to maybe take a break or whatever. So it is hard to do. We kind of overdid it last year, I guess, just to be candid, and like took on a lot. We were just nonstop busy, and we're being a lot more selective this year. And actually, it's working out really well.
Awesome. So what are your specific roles for each of you? What do you do in the business, or does it overlap?
There's definitely some overlap. Do you want to answer?
Sure. There's some overlap. We concept things together. We'll come up with ideas together, and always have since the beginning. But he's the artist, so I guess I can critique it all day long. But at some point, it's up to him to make the art and do his artistic thing. I'm primarily the business manager, so I do payroll and bookkeeping, marketing, contracts, invoices, all of that stuff. I hunt for new jobs.
We'll brainstorm stuff together, and I'll have the more like coming up with the composition and stuff. She's really good at finding out the history in the area, what kind of stuff's been done in the area before, so we're not making duplicate artwork or subject matter. she'll be able to find that kind of niche thing that people when we're doing location-based murals, something that identifies really strongly with the community, and then keeping my artistic talents focused, because I'll just kind of go all over the place as artists tend to do. So she keeps me on the right path.
Very cool. I feel like it's a dream. It sounds like a dream for somebody, an artist, to be able to more focus on what we do best, of painting and being the creative part. And then you have that awesome support system in-house to do the marketing. So what kind of marketing do you do? Is it like all the posting that you see on social media? Is that you, or?
That's the bulk of it.
That's the bulk of it. I know that a lot of muralists do cold calls, and we're prepared to do it. I have lists of like people I would contact, but so far I haven't had a chance to do it because we've been busy. So we haven't had to do literally any cold calling at this point.
We just focus on how many different social media platforms that we can be on.
And we don't even have huge followings. There's artists out there who have way more than us, I would say. But we try to be consistent and present ourselves as friendly and professional, and do good work. And it speaks for itself. People see it. People see it out in the street.
Mm-hmm.
We primarily focus on works that are going to be seen in public. So we don't do a lot of Airbnbs. We don't do a lot of private home type stuff. It's usually all out in public. And we always put our name on there in the corner when we're done so that people can see it. And oftentimes we'll ask our clients, where did you hear about us? And, oh, I saw you over on this street or that street.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky that the way our murals, like any muralist, advertises for yourself when it's out in a public element with your name on it. Inevitably, when we do a mural, usually we'll get a follow-up project, or at least an inquiry, just from having a new mural up somewhere. So it really just kind of feeds on itself and grows, and it compounds too, because those things stay out there. So the more you have out, the more kind of returns you're getting on them, which is great.
For sure. Yeah. And your murals are so eye-catching. I was actually just scrolling right here on your Instagram, just looking, and I love how you guys are doing photos. Like, I don't really see hardly any reels on your thing.
I move them over. There's a bunch of reels. But I only keep 3 reels on our main page when you get to our profile. The rest of them are under the reels tab.
I gotcha. Okay. But it's actually really nice, because I want to go and just see your art, and I click on it and there's a picture of it, and I can zoom in and I can judge, and I can just look over it, and it's just not like, usually when you go on somebody's profile and you see a reel, we all do them, but then you have to like wait till the end to actually see it, and it's only a couple seconds and you're like, oh, but I can.
Yeah, we've noticed that. We want to, as we were mentioning or maybe didn't get to, we just want our artwork, when we're putting ourselves out there, to be easy to find and come across really professionally, so that when people see our stuff, we're just kind of the default choice when they're looking for a muralist for a project. And I think the best way to do that is just to have your art front and center on your page. Before we started the business and stuff, I, like a lot of artists, just mix art and personal life and have some art posts here and there. And the first thing Jessica did was like, stop doing that. We're going to make an art page. It's going to have just your artwork, make it easy to find, and start that brand early on. And that's definitely helped make us easier to find and approachable for inquiry.
This is actually my second small business. I had a magazine that I started in the past, and I didn't do it for all that long because I was ready to move out of the area, and it was kind of a local magazine, but it taught me a lot. And magazine's all marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and so I learned sort of a lot in doing that. That's carried over. Also, I worked as a librarian for 7 years, and so I'm a very organized thinker. And that's,
you have your master's degree in, was it data communication or something?
It's information.
Yeah, information sciences or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she's really good at staying organized, and I'm not. So she's
it works out.
yin to my yang, I guess you'd say.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have a virtual assistant and she speaks with just being organized all the time. Like she writes everything down. It's all like I'm like, oh thank you. And that sounds exactly like what this is too. You have the creative and then the logical or organized numbers person
Yeah, we
anyways.
balance each other out. It's like a scale. It's like,
It's funny how couples end up like that. And I'm sure one of you is the messy one and the other one's the clean one.
yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay, well, so I'm looking over your stuff right now, and just the couple reels that were on there. There's so many spray cans in what you're. Oh my gosh,
I overdid it. Sorry.
So you'd use spray cans a lot. I see you're using.
I do, not as much as it looks like, honestly. I brought out a lot of paint for this and thought I was going to use it, but
the project we're on.
Yeah, so we're actually in Kansas right now. We're based out of Florida, so that's why our home decor is a little kitschy because we're in a Airbnb. So yeah, in the middle of the prairie in Kansas. So we're working on painting a grain bin mural that's 45 feet tall and 86 feet wide, and it's of like a stampeding buffalo thunderstorm. And it being a thunderstorm, like animals are kind of cloud based. They're supposed to look more like clouds than animals. And I was finding when I was using the spray paint that they were losing a lot of that kind of like fluffy, flowing, ethereal look to them. And so I was trying a new process or newer process, maybe an expanded look at it, where I used my handheld Wagner sprays a lot more. Whereas before I just had one paint cartridge that was loaded and I'd have to switch it every time. I was able to locate where you can get, and it was just a hardware store, but where I could have multiple paint sprayer like attachments set up, and I was able to switch colors really quickly up there. So I could have like 6 colors up there instead of just one, and it let me work really fast. So even with probably 20 to 30% of our working days being skunked for weather, we were actually able to complete this project ahead of time.
Kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And in the past, we would use a lot of rollers and brushes and then spray cans. But on this one, it's been almost entirely the sprayer. Yeah. And it's good, I think.
Yeah. So like super smooth, like steel metal finish. So the sprayer was like perfect to use on it.
Okay, so you're painting on a metal bin. So I get this question a lot in our Artist Academy group. So did you prime it first, or what kind of paint are you using?
Yeah, I actually spent 2 whole days just pressure washing it to get all the like old dust and mildew and stuff off of it. And then we used a bonding primer as like an extra, barrier. Had a little bit of rust on there, but we waited until it was nice and hot out. So hopefully that moisture all kind of evaporated out of there.
It had a base on it already.
Yeah, the base coat was actually really good. So I was pressure washing it, and none of the existing original paint was chipping off or anything. So that was a great sign. But we go ahead and like primer all the time, every time. Yeah, because we've done stuff. I use a lot of like paint mask and stuff when or painter's tape when we do some of our more geometric style stuff, and we've noticed that a lot of other like more commercial painters, they don't primer very well, and it'll actually rip up the paint when you pull even the delicate tape off of. So we're always big advocates of wall prep. I used to do graphic design and work at a sign shop and do vehicle wraps on RVs and boats, and that kind of led me into being more comfortable working on large scale murals because it was a scale that I was familiar to working on. And a big part of doing that when you're preparing for a wrap is surface prep, because you can have the coolest design you want, but if you're not installing it properly, it's like putting like a bumper sticker in sand or something. It's just not gonna stick. And your name's on that project. You want it to look good, for the absolute longest time that you can. So we're big proponents of putting the investment in that time up front, because it does matter. It might look good the day you finish the mural, but what's it going to look like in 3 months, 6 months, a year? Your name's still going to be on it. And if somebody sees it peeling and flaking, that's going to be a reason for them to consider not doing murals in the future. So you're not actually just hurting yourself, you're hurting other muralists in the industry as well.
And that's not anecdotal. Like, we've run into that with communities who they're trying to decide between a mural and a sculpture, and they ultimately went with the sculpture because, oh, a mural's not gonna last, because their process of their thought of a mural is something old that they saw a long time ago, might not have been done correctly, you know, might have been faded out. And so then we didn't get a project, you know. So we always try to do the best that we can to represent the muralist community well.
So and that's, I know a lot of artists use spray paint and stuff, and I like using it myself. It is very easy to switch colors and work really quickly. But I do think the latex acrylic paint holds up a lot better over time too, as far as like UV resistance and stuff.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a really good reminder. It's just, I should probably do that more. Just apply primer first. It doesn't take very long, just a quick coat, and it really, there's been a couple of things in the past where I'm like, should have used primer, but
and it helps with your colors. Your colors are going to last longer. You're going to have to use less coats, you know, potentially. So it actually could save you money, you know, if you can get away with just doing 1 or 2 coats rather than 4, 5, 6 coats, because you're trying to paint orange or something on a dark color like I used to do. So, but
it is really annoying just going over things twice or 3 times. In general, you're like, okay, let's just do a one shot and go. Okay, so who's hiring you to do this giant mural out in Kansas, and how did they find you?
Sure.
The organization is called A Mural Movement, and it's based out of Clay Center, Kansas. It's a fantastic community-run public art program. So I think it was during the pandemic is when they started, and Clay Center is kind of exceptional in that they really demonstrate the power of public art to uplift a community, and all the positive things that public art can bring to a community. So during the pandemic, a man named Brett Hubka, for a project with the local Rotary, decided he wanted to bring a mural to town, and they did one, and the community loved it. And so they decided, hey, let's do another. And it was all local fundraising, people donating, and the community sort of rallying together for that. And in 2 years' time, they did 25 murals.
Yeah, over 20 for sure.
Yeah. 25
I
murals.
think we went and painted our first mural here in 2022, and it was the 25th mural that they'd done since 2020. And that's just because the community, like, they went nuts for the murals here. They loved it.
Well, they have a large elderly population, and the community really cares about each other here. And they loved it during the pandemic because it was open air, outdoors, spread out. You could walk around, just you and your little family, and see the different murals around town. It's a small town, so you could kind of walk around and see the whole circuit. And it brought a lot of color and positivity during kind of a difficult time. And we saw a call and applied for it, and were selected, and we did our first one here in 2022. And when we were here, we looked at the tank that we're doing now, and they said, wouldn't it be crazy if
I was like, I have a really cool idea for that tank out there that's like a storm cloud of stampeding buffalo.
And here we are. So they're the kind of people that make things happen, which is really fun. Yeah, it's a really great group.
Yeah, we love being out here.
Very cool. Yeah, murals really do add to the area. I mean, we visited a town in Iowa that was a very small town, and just walked around to see all the murals. Same with, Austin, Texas, and that's what it does. It gets people out, and it gets people. So I would love more towns. A lot of it's getting the funding of it. So a group got the funding for it, and then the community added to that. How much are you getting paid for this one? Can I ask?
We never disclose, because it's their business too, and the community, I don't know how they feel about that. We feel good about what we're getting paid for it. I will say this year, just to put things into perspective, we're not doing things for much less than 20 grand a project, and this exceeds that. So
wow. Yeah. Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, we try to do one project a month. That's our business model. We used to do anything and everything that came our way, but we realized we could do 5 projects a month for $1,000, and have 5 designs and 5 contracts and 5 invoices and all the client communications for 5 projects and make $5,000. Or we could do one large project for the month, cut all that extra work out, and
and still have time for ourselves. I like having my artwork be accessible to people. I don't like pricing people out of the opportunity to like enjoy my artwork if they're a fan of it, but we definitely tried it that way and it's just not feasible. It doesn't make sense for me, like from like just burnout. It's just not sustainable. And then also, you know, this is our livelihood and our business and we rely on it to like prepare ourselves for the future. And it's such a unique line of work where there's only 2 of us. There's only one of me painting. So every mural we do has to count towards that goal as much as we can. Of course, not every project's going to like be leaps and bounds ahead of the other one, but that's just something that we learned. I'm, you know, got to learn things the hard way a little bit, but.
And there's always exceptions because for us, projects there's value other than what's monetary. It can be, you know, are we making really great connections? Do we love the place that it's in? Are we getting creative freedom to demonstrate his best work that will then help us in the future? There are all these things that we consider as well. So I don't want to like put a hard line on what we will do and won't do because we want to hear.
It morphs. Our business it's not static. As you transition as a muralist, and I guess this is just anecdotal in our experience, there's things that are right at a certain point in time for your artistic journey, and you're going to outgrow things, and some people outgrow them faster than others. And that's one of the benefits of being a muralist is there's always another project after this one. So you can always make that adjustment and hopefully be able to increase your value on certain projects, which we've been able to do, you know, time and time again. And it's really just about leverage and putting your jobs that are in your portfolio to work for you in the future.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's been so many times, so many weeks where I feel like I was doing those smaller projects and they just stack up and then, you know, some run over and then you have to start another one. And it's just, I feel like on a lot of times just saying yes to everything, it kind of makes me, you know, you're not really giving your full everything to these projects because they don't have the budget for it. And you have another one to do. And it's just, and so the bigger ones are definitely, I feel like ones that you can really put in your all. And there's just by looking at your Instagram, you can tell that you put in your all in several of them. Like they're so creative and colorful and just so eye catching. And it's just, I think that's what comes from exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's something that we've learned too, when to say yes to projects too. That's important to us. We don't get to do it on every project, of course, but I think as we talk to clients and filter their requests and stuff, I think the smart clients know not to be too heavy-handed with their approach with the artist and let them. If you really like somebody's work, hire them for their creativity and their expertise. You don't have to micromanage every brush stroke that they're doing or subject matter that they're including in the mural. So, but that's something that people learn with experience. I will say, unfortunately, a lot of the public art calls, these committees are getting on board for their first call, it seems like, on a lot of these. So you're going to kind of have to walk them through that if you're the artist that's selected, unfortunately.
Well, and
that's not for everybody, but the ones that we've done it, it seems like
they're just people. We've met wonderful people. It's not, we're not disparaging anybody. Everybody's been great.
Everybody's different too. When you work with these organizations, there's all different, professions and personalities involved. So you kind of have to see how everything shakes out. So.
For sure. Yeah. Especially with a committee in general, there are just so many people to deal with. And sometimes they add to it. Sometimes it just takes longer. So to get these bigger projects, I know that like that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, I want to get paid $20,000 for a mural. So how are you getting these projects exactly? This one was a call that you went for? Are they mostly referrals? Are you outreaching or are they coming in?
Sure.
They're coming in and we're doing what I'm going to consider outreach, but I'll explain that. We do a mix. So we of course have like a funnel where people can message us, and we process their request and get back to them and get a quote. And we get a lot of requests that we know aren't going to pan out, but we like to hear people out and give them the opportunity to say no, just because of the pricing, because right now it's kind of a competition for our time sometimes. And so we do get commercial clients that come in. We did a project, what was it, in March for NBC Universal. That was a great project that came to our inbox.
Yeah.
And other projects I do apply
real
for.
Quick side note, they found us because of another mural that we had done.
Yeah.
So that's like a case study of like murals advertising for yourself. They like the scale of it and the style of it, and hired us to do a similar project for them.
They saw it on the street. It was a big one, so it would be hard to miss. But yeah. And when I have time, I am searching for public art calls. And so I'll apply for them if I feel like we have a good chance, or if it's going to be worth it, or if it's somewhere interesting. I used to apply for a lot of things. And I've kind of pulled back on that because we want the right stuff. They are very, very competitive. And so I fill it out, send it off, and I just forget about them. I don't think about them. And if they pop back into our inbox, hooray. For us, we found that because we are a team, I have time to do that. And so it's not a lot of skin off his back if we do that. In the public art world, there's RFPs and there's RFQs. RFQs are requests for qualifications, where they just want to see your past work. And those I can fire off really quick. Or did I say that wrong? Was
RFPs.
RFPs are the ones where they want you to do art up front, which, to be clear, is a terrible way to run a call. But they exist, and it's a sign to us that the person's probably never run an art call before. And they'll probably never do it that way again, because people are pretty quick to say, stop doing that. But once it's out there as an RFP, request for proposals, request for your art, they can't take it back. They can't like redact it, because it's a government document typically. And so you have to kind of decide, is it worth my time to make artwork for this that 99% chance won't get selected?
It's like less than that.
Yeah.
It's like a fraction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're so competitive. And so you have to decide, is it worth my time? So if it's something that's a small budget, we won't spend time doing that. But if it's a really large budget, it's like, oh, it's worth it to throw our hat in the ring and spend a few hours coming up with a concept.
Yeah. Well, we've seen, artists that say they never do FRPs win FRPs for like lots and lots of money.
Yeah.
So,
we're like, oh, okay.
Tell everybody not to do them, and then apply for them yourself.
If the price is right, people will.
If you think that you stand a chance and you have the time to do it, I would say, why not? You just have to be comfortable with the fact that you're probably not going to get it. But if you're at an intermediate level, where the real side note, what people don't realize when they're doing an FRP is that you're probably, no offense to anybody that not going to get the cream of the crop, because the really like high profile artists are busy and they don't need to waste their time doing that. They're just going to get told that they're going to do a project. What's their price? So they're not actually getting their ideal artists. They're just going to get who's available, and they don't realize that when they do it. So there's, a grain of salt with that. 100%. But
I don't know. I think if the price is right, you just never know who will come out of the woodwork for it.
True.
So, I mean, we've seen some of these calls be $150,000. So yeah, we're going to apply. We're going to apply and give it our best shot. And if we don't get it, you kind of have to develop a tough skin or thick skin, because in all likelihood, you're not going to get it. I mean, you might, and we have in the past. Yeah. We've gotten them in the past. So it is possible. But you just can't take it too personally, because that's just,
you're not in control about their decision at all. And like I said, there's so many different personalities involved in that decision-making process. You could have a great portfolio or not. You could have a terrible portfolio and get picked. So that's why it's worth applying for, because you just never know who they're going to pick.
Yeah. So.
Where are you finding these RFPs, RFQs to apply for?
Sure, they're on a handful of websites. So I actually stumble across a lot of them just on Instagram, because I'm already following a ton of arts organizations.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's a website, a lot of people know about this already, but it's called callforentry.org.
Mm.
And you can search for all types of public art calls on there. Not all of them are murals, of course. Some of them are not specific about what kind of art they want. And so they might be open to a mural, they might not. And it gets a little frustrating because it's like, what do you want? Can I apply for this? There's another website called publicartist.org. A lot of times your state will have a public art, like the state government will have a public art calls listing site. And sometimes you can just Google and find little ones that aren't posted anywhere. And if it's not posted anywhere, you might stand a better chance of getting it because not everybody knows about it.
Mural festivals or like organizers, and then we'll follow them, and you'll have to wait like a whole year till they do it again, but they'll eventually post their next project or call, and if you're paying attention, you can find it that way as well. So you got to kind of be paying attention for it.
And not everything's a good fit. I see mural calls all the time. Sometimes people are really nice and will be like, hey, I saw this and I thought of you, and send it to us, and thank you so much. But then I'll look at it and be like, it's probably not a good fit for whatever reason. Not everything's a good fit. And then they are time consuming to apply to. I would say if you do plan on applying to public art calls, have certain documents ready and use them as templates that you can adjust. So they always ask for, well, not always. There's no standards. First of all, they're all different, but usually they're going to want work samples. They're going to want a resume, sometimes a letter of interest. And they're really typically interested in how you connect with the project, if there's some personal connection to the area or the project. Sometimes an artist statement or an artist biography, two different things.
Do they want the location and the dimensions of the artwork included sometimes as well? If
you're submitting photos, sometimes they ask for a lot of information about your previous work, sometimes not. They're just all a little bit different. So I would say have certain things on a little folder on your desktop that you can adjust to make your submitting process quick and easy. So I've gotten to the point I can submit pretty quickly for stuff because I have templates made that I can adjust for the call, whatever the call is. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're inspiring me to go look up all of that and apply, and then just get really disappointed when I don't get chosen.
Well, that's everybody's experience. Like, again, 99.9% of people aren't getting chosen.
That's why I was like, it's less than a fraction of a percent, because like there's between 300 to 700 artists that apply, and they're going to pick one person. So,
And you don't know how close you came. You never know because you don't get any feedback. So you never know. So I like to think, we were second.
And that's another little thing that I like to try and illustrate with the FRP is that when they put a call out like that and they have these artists all make artwork, and say you spent somewhere between 4 to 8 hours making and that's on the low end side, making a piece of artwork for it, and then you times those 3 hours by 300, talking about like 1,000 hours. A lot of times the unpaid hours that these projects generate for artists is like a whole like 3-4 months worth of nonstop work
from the arts community
that they took, out of people's time. So that's something to consider when they're doing these calls, that they might not care, but it is a fact of the matter. So
I recently spoke in front of a city committee. It was kind of intimidating because I was like on the stand advocating because they were getting ready for a public art project and just advocating for it to be an RFQ format instead of RFP. And I mean, I think I convinced them, but it was just like, please do not do it this way. You're not going to get what you want. You might not get as many people to apply for it. I don't know, because you're asking people to work for free. So an RFP, again, is not ideal. RFQ is a more respectful way to run an art call. But if you see, as an artist, if you see an RFP out there, feel free to email the administrator and say what you want to say about it. That's great. That helps the arts community, but they're not going to change that call. So then you have to kind of decide, am I going to throw my hat in the ring or not? Is this project a good fit for me or not? And kind of go from there, because either way that project's going to move forward as an RFP. So realistically,
It's just like anything, like the more you apply, the more experience you get with them. A lot of times we can read a call and we can see telltale signs of issues that are going to be happening in that project, and we'll know ahead of time not to apply for it just because of some of the requests that they're making. There's some odd things that people come up with because they think that's how it's done, and that's not really the right way to go about doing things. So, but these are all just kind of anecdotal things. There's no set thing. Apply for whatever you want to apply for. If you think you've got a shot, don't not apply for something because you're afraid or you think you won't get it, because you can 100% get something that you totally thought was out of your reach. So
one of our mottos is like, let them reject you. Let them say no to you. Don't ever let the fear of rejection hold you back, because you have to reach for things that you think are bigger and figure it out when you're there. And our big wall that we did as our third wall, that was 70 foot by 20 something, 22, 25. We went and looked at that wall in the rain. I'll never forget it. And we were like, wow, can we do this? We applied and we figured it out. And that automatically, boom, right there, we became the people that do big walls really early on in our career. And that served us really well. So you just never know.
Yeah, no, you really just do never know. And so just to echo that, I had an experience recently. I applied to something in St. Louis last year, and the organizer called me and said that my design was the last one on the chopping block. They chose like 4 artists or 5, and I didn't get it. And I was like, oh, dang it. But last year I was coaching this brand new artist. Like I don't know that she's ever done a mural on her own is the thing. And like this year she ended up applying for it. I didn't do it this year, but she got it. And I was like, you go, girl. Like, and she doesn't really have a resume that much, but her design they really liked, and so now she's doing it this year. And so you do just never know.
Again, you never know. We don't have a massive social media following on any platform, but we're doing well. Like, we're both making a living off of this and are able to. We traveled to Romania last year and England and painted, and we're having a great time. So we love it. There's all these like sort of surface level signs of success that everyone thinks they have to have, but really you don't have to have all that to be a successful artist and a full-time artist.
Yeah.
For sure. How did you get the ones in Romania? What is it? The same call for artists?
That was a festival. It was called the CSAF. It was like the town was called Sibiu, and it's in Transylvania. And I was like, let's just apply. It'll be crazy. It'll be crazy if we get picked. And what do you know? Like, we got picked.
Yeah. So crazy. I had done a painting on canvas, and she just took a picture of it. I remember I was like playing PlayStation, and I heard the camera click from her phone. And I was like, we just take a picture of. And then she was like, don't worry about it. And that was what she sent off to these people, and they picked it. They had a bunch of applicants, and we flew over there and painted on the side of a school over there. And they covered our hotel and food and all that stuff. We just had to get there.
It was an amazing cultural exchange, I would say.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing country, super welcoming people. That's one of the things I love about doing murals is like, I don't think a lot of people would generally go out of their way to visit some of the places that we've been sometimes. And it's really cool to get out there. And like, we'll be like bouncing around the countryside in a Sprinter van full of like retirees. And they're like, so what are you doing here? Like, what do you do for a living?
Oh yeah. We went on, what he's talking about is we went on a day trip to Bulgaria from Romania, and it was all these retirees, and we were at the moment living kind of their lifestyle. And they were like, what are you guys doing? And we told them what we do, and they were like, you get paid to do that? Like, we're like, good enough to be here with you, like in your retirement.
Yeah.
So
it's just funny.
It was a funny moment for us. Yeah, people don't realize.
Yeah, especially the older generation. I feel like now the youngins, especially growing up with Instagram and YouTube and seeing all these cool artists doing cool things like you guys, and it's just like, oh, you can, and you can charge a lot. So thank you for sharing your story and your pricing and everything, and how you get jobs. You're just spilling all the secrets.
Hopefully we're helpful. We try not to be too heavy-handed with the advice, because I know everybody's situation's different. Everybody lives in a different market, and they might have a different value on their artwork.
And things weren't always like this for us. Like, it was a snowball. It started very small, and again, like the first few years you did it, it was part-time while we were doing other jobs before we took the big leap. And it wasn't like day one, woo,
I would just say like, don't be afraid to charge more. We probably still don't charge enough sometimes. So that would be the biggest takeaway that I would say to anybody that's an aspiring artist. Like, definitely value yourself and stand your ground, because there's people that will try, unfortunately, to take advantage of you as an artist because they know that this is your passion and you would probably, love to do it for free. But unfortunately, we also do this as a living. So, and it is a lot of hard work, and it is expensive to run a small business, no matter what business that is. So you need to make sure you're covering yourself because you're going to have to pay for all kinds of things that you probably didn't want to have to pay for. So.
For sure. Yeah. I think the money blocks and always wanting to charge more. I think that's all of us, including myself. Even that actually came up when you said that you were doing a really well-paid project in Kansas. And I have this block in my mind because I'm in Missouri, and I just think like in the Midwest, it's a lot harder to charge for a lot more, but you're blowing that out of the water. You're like, oh wait, you're in Kansas, middle of nowhere, Kansas, and you're still getting paid that well. So it's definitely out there.
Yes.
I think a lot of artists, and this is a great way to charge by the square foot, and have a set price of like this much per square foot. But when it gets really large, because again, we tend to focus on really large scale projects at this point, you can't quite charge the same, so we've had to
this is a 4,000 square foot mural, or 4,000. So if we charged $30 a square foot, which I've heard a lot of artists throw around, that's $120,000 mural.
It would never happen.
That's not what we charge for this.
So
I mean, that would be nice. Maybe, I'm sure somebody's gotten paid that much, but
maybe
not us, not today. So maybe next year.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have any little last bits of advice of artists who are hearing what you're doing and they're so inspired and they want to do what you guys are doing, and they're just getting started? What's a good bit of advice for the ones that are just getting started and getting going?
You go.
Okay. I would say, I think I'll reiterate what I said before, which is to take it slow, go at your own pace, but also to do this full time, it's going to take a lot more than maybe you have in your mind that you're prepared to give. Like, you're going to have to work really, really hard to do it, but it is attainable. You're definitely going to have to practice. Nobody's going to give you this stuff. You have to be a good artist. So you are going to have to work really hard, or maybe it comes natural to people more so than it did for myself, but to develop a style and be marketable and be branded. But also, I guess an easier thing would be to be professional and be responsive and do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. Because we've gotten a lot of comments that artists are aloof or hard to get a hold of, hard to nail down. So if you can be responsive and professional to people, I think you're way ahead of the field when they're looking for people. So
to piggyback on that, I think you have to put yourself in the mind of your ideal client. And for us, that might be a big corporate client. They're used to the corporate world. They're used to the way things work there. So we want to, email back quickly. We want to have a professional, sharp looking website and social media platforms that they can find us on. We want to look like we take ourselves seriously, so that they take us seriously.
Yeah, you want to have it figured out before they have to ask for it. You need to be prepared to receive opportunity. So it's going to take a little bit of research to find out what kind of stuff you need to have in order to do that. Because when you land a big job or with a corporate client or something, they're going to ask for a lot of things that you might not be prepared to have, like
insurance and
LLC stuff. I know a lot of people operate without having that stuff all set up for a long time. So
yeah, and I guess my bit of advice would be, from a marketing point of view, if you don't like doing a certain kind of work, don't promote it. You can do it, but don't make it a public spectacle on your account. So for example, like if you hate, painting in a certain style or painting cartoonish pink cats, don't post yourself painting cartoonish pink cats because someone's going to see it and be like,
Yeah, inevitably,
I
that's what
want
you're
more
going
of
to get.
those
All the
cats.
requests. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do work from time to time that we won't even share on our portfolio. So we're pretty busy. So if all of a sudden we kind of go quiet for a month, we're doing a project that doesn't fit the style of the rest of his work, but pays the bills. And so we're doing that work, and we're just not posting a whole lot about it because that's not on brand, and we want to keep doing the kind of work that we're sharing about, not necessarily whatever project we might be doing at that time. So
Yeah, for sure. Great advice. Thank you so much, Christian and Jessica, for coming on and sharing all of this. I've been so into everything of what you're saying. You guys work very well together. I can tell by just the way you go back and forth. And so I'm very happy that you've made this a really great lifestyle for yourselves. It's very inspirational, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much
thank
for
you for
having
having us
us.
on.
Hopefully we didn't put our foot in our mouth or anything like that.
Not at all. It was great. People are going to love this. I'm going to get so much good feedback on this, I already know. So thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Have a nice